All right, friends, it's me. It's Terri Lomax here. I'm back. So I just wanted to check in with you to see how the quality sounds before we actually dive in. So feel free to let me know how things sound on your end, and we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Hi, Julie. Okay, great. Sounds great. Awesome. Amazing. Thank you for that feedback. Stephanie let me know. She's like, it sounds a little weird. So I had to go in and make sure that things were good before we get started. So awesome. Hey, Nasima. Let's see, Stephanie said, no judgment, whatever helps you release endorphins. Exactly. I wish I could sing, Stephanie. Wouldn't that be amazing? I really admire people that can sing. Great. So I'm happy that you're all here. Looks like we still have some folks that are joining us. So we're just going to kind of keep it conversational until we hit 9 o'clock because we only have 30 minutes together. And I definitely want us to maximize our time. So we're just going to kind of hold tight. So feel free to share, where in the world are you tuning in from? And do you have any plans for the holiday break? I know we have off next week, so just feel free to share where in the world you're tuning in from and what plans you have for either the weekend or the holiday break. And I'll just wait to see your feedback there, and we'll get started soon. Gonna go ahead and also share my screen. Feel free to let me know if if my Facebook pops up. I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen here. So feel free to let me know, and we will be good to go. We have about 3 more minutes left. 3 more minutes, and we are going to officially be going live. And I'm just waiting for some feedback. I want to see where you're tuning in from. So where are you tuned in from? Hey, Ashley. Awesome. I'm so excited. Wouldn't it be? I wish we were like all in the same room. That would be so amazing. Okay, let's see. Great. Stephanie, you are amazing. I just saw your message. So you can see my screen and slides and not my Facebook. That's what I like to hear. Amazing. Okay, cool. I'm just kind of playing around with the tech before we get started. Oh, nice. Okay, so Paige. Hey, Paige. Paige is in Queens. Awesome. How is it in Queens today, Paige? I used to live in Queens years ago. I love the hustle and bustle. Queens was beautiful, but how are things in Queens? I'm here in San Francisco, and I'm trying to look out the window now. I feel like it's kind of gloomy. It rained this week, so it's okay here. A little chilly though. San Francisco actually gets pretty chilly. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Allison. Oh my goodness, we have Queens in the house. Allison is also in Queens. Okay, Paige said some sun slipping through. Awesome. Oh, nice. So we have Queens representing. We have Lake Tahoe. Oh, it's snowy. Oh, I bet it's beautiful, Jolie, in Lake Tahoe. We went to Tahoe a while ago. If you're just tuning in, you're like, what's going on? We're getting started in 2 minutes, okay? We're getting started in 2 minutes. We're going to get started on the dot. I just want to make sure that we can welcome folks in. We have Stephanie, my new friend here, has been helping me out with the tech and making sure that we're good to go. Stephanie is joining from Los Angeles, hoping to understand what coping skills confident women use to manage their time and not let the anxiety of life overwhelm them. Ooh, yes, I brought up meditation earlier. Stephanie, I used to use some meditation apps. We have about 30 seconds and we'll be getting started. But I love to just go to YouTube. I typically go to YouTube and I find something that really resonates with me, and I'll just use that as my guide. And I've actually gotten to the point now. It's funny, when I started meditating, I could literally only meditate for about a minute or so because I got so distracted. But practice makes perfect. And so now I can do it by myself as well. So that's pretty cool. But yes, YouTube is great. I like the free options, right? I've tried Calm before as well. And then Nasima is in Italy. Oh, quite foggy today. That's amazing though. Nasima, it sounds amazing to be in Italy. Oh, so cool. All right. We're about to go ahead and get started. I see that we are recording. I see that we still have folks coming in. So make sure you get comfortable, grab a snack, grab your favorite drink, and let's go ahead and dive on in. Hello and welcome to The Myth of Balance and How to Get It All Done. I'm Terri Lomax, a podcaster, speaker, and brand strategist, and I'm a customer success manager at Asana. Asana is a tool that helps teams collaborate effortlessly. Also, I want to know, I have various screens up, so I want to make sure you can see my slides. You can see the app here and you can see chat. So I may be looking all around, but don't worry. I can see the chat and I will be acknowledging you as soon as I can. We don't have a bunch of time together, so we're going to jump right in. I do want to say, if you want a copy of these slides, there are a few activities here. You can visit iwanttheslidestery.com after our session, and you can get a copy of the slides here, all right? Also, you want to stay until the end because you can learn more about a special freebie that you will get access to and how you can win a $100 gift card. Hey, Angelica from LinkedIn, how are you? All right. So if you like free stuff, feel free to drop your favorite emoji in the chat. All right. I want you to drop your favorite emoji in the chat if you like free stuff, because if you stay until the end, you will get something free. Also, I do want to let you know, if you can't tell already, this is going to be a highly interactive session. Okay. So if there's anything that I say over the course of this conversation that we have and it resonates with you and you're like, yes, girl, I want you to drop a in the chat. Okay. And what that looks like is 3 M's or more. Julie, you are on it. 3 M's or more. And I know that you're my people and we're good to go. All right. So let's go ahead and switch up the slides here. I want to make sure that you can see the change on your end. Amazing. I want to tell you a little bit about my story. Okay. According to statistics, I should have been an alcoholic. According to statistics, I should have been a high school dropout. I should have been in prison or living below the poverty line. And the picture here on the far right is me in high school in a 1-bedroom shelter that my mom, my dad, and my 4 younger siblings lived in. And the next picture is a picture of my mentor and I at my college trunk party. And finally, on the very bottom is a picture of me and some of my college friends our freshman year headed to a party. Now, before we dive into anything else, it's really important for us to address the elephant in the room. This is the elephant in my room. Let me not speak for you. I know that everyone here is super confident, super secure, and you never second guess yourself, but that's not my truth. That is not my story. Okay. I've struggled with imposter syndrome and many self-defeating thought processes my entire career. All right. I am from Philadelphia. I went to public schools my whole life. All right. And I remember when I moved to Silicon Valley and started working in tech, I was so insecure. I remember sitting in rooms with other folks that went to Ivy League schools, and I just felt so small. I really wondered, like, how did I get here? Why am I here? Why do they choose me? Do I belong here? Right? Like, I questioned myself. And what I realized, especially at my time, the amazing experience that I've had at the company I work at, Asana, what I've realized over that time is that, you know, our adversity, it makes our story much more interesting, right? And the way that I look at it now is, one, our perspective is needed. No matter where you come from, no matter what happened to you, no matter what your background is, our perspective is needed. And another way that I like to look at it is, you know, I still made it to the table, but I may have gotten there with, with a little discount, right? I didn't have to pay for Ivy League school, and I didn't have to pay for, the different things that other folks may have had to pay for or chose to pay for, but I still made it to the table, right? And so I really want us to just hone in on the message that we are not defined by where we come from, what we come from, or what happened to us, okay? And the message here is, I see Stephanie's like, The message here is stop sleeping on yourself, okay? Some of us have incredible transferable skills that we don't celebrate or acknowledge. Maybe you're a caretaker and you work full time, right? Well, it sounds to me like you might have a lot of empathy, right? It sounds to me like you might know how to manage stressful situations, right? Maybe you're resilient. So when your company goes through issues and they're having trouble, well, because you balance all these other things in life, maybe you're going to be well suited for this situation that the company's facing, right? So I think it's so important for us to really leverage our strengths. I remember thinking that my past was something to be ashamed of, and it was something that I shouldn't talk about. But now I find that that is where my strength comes from, right? And I think that, my story includes living in a homeless shelter and struggling with so much adversity. And because I faced that adversity, now I realize at this point in my life that there's not a lot that can really get me down, right? When things happen, I'm like, okay, I've been through something similar before, or I've been through a struggle before. I know that I'll be okay. I just want to shout out some of the comments here. Angelica says, imposter syndrome is heavy. It has suffocated me out of being present in some experiences. Yes, recovering imposter syndrome. I'm with you. So no more sleeping on yourself. Mary says, so true. Being able to step back and look at yourself like you, Mary, that is one of my favorite quotes. Being able to step back and look at yourself as you would assess your friend, right? We're so kind to other people. We can see hidden talents in other people, but when we look in the mirror, we're like, well, you belong here. I'm so excited. My mic is moving around. You belong here. That is the message. All right. So All right, I'm looking at the chat. I'm super excited, but I know we got to keep on moving. So the message here is don't define who you are by where you are in your journey, okay? Don't define who you are by where you are in your journey. Now, I told you a little bit about my story and where I came from, right? This little Black girl from Philly just reached 1 million downloads on her podcast, the Her Space podcast. I have a little screenshot there. I published my book, my first self-help book this year on my dad's 13th death anniversary. And I've been featured in some of the outlets that you see on here. And I did all this by working full time or while working full time. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I'm 5 months pregnant right now. Okay. You can't see belly's down here, but 5 months pregnant. So what I say all that to say, like the adversity that we experience, right? Our past experience that we've had in life, it contributes to where we are today, right? It can really be the catalyst for what we're doing in the world. So don't take those experiences for granted. Don't be ashamed of them. We all have a different story, right? And I do want to point out, everyone doesn't have a sob story, and that's okay, because that would be kind of depressing, right? But we all have something that we've experienced in life that we can take with us into our career, that we can take with us into our working world, right? Our businesses, all that good stuff, right? I see we have Philly in the house. I love it. So now what I want to do is I want to get to know a little bit more about you. So feel free. I know some folks that tuned in early, you already shared your location. Feel free to share your location and one key takeaway that you hope to walk away with. I really want to make sure that I have clarity on like what's important to you, because I want to make sure I cover those points over the course of our session. Also, I want to say, we have about 23 minutes or so together left in this session. And I really want you to set an intention. Like by the end of our session, what do you hope to walk away with? Because the way I look at this is we are traveling on a journey together, right? You get into your car, you set your GPS up. And if you don't put an address in, right? If you don't set an intention, where are you going to end up? Anywhere, right? You might end up anywhere or nowhere. So I really want you to set an intention. Angelica, Asha, Shira, Angela, JC, like what is that thing that you're like, okay, by the end of this session, I either want a fresh perspective on this, right? Or I want to XYZ, whatever that might be for you based on where you are in your life. I want you to set that intention. And I'm going to go ahead and just shout out some of our folks here that are tuned in and what you want to walk away with. So we have Angela from Oakland. We have LA, project management for procrastinators. Oh, I have some great tips for you there. We have Angelica here from the Bay Area. I hope to walk away with tips about how to be okay with balance. Sometimes I feel like I always have to be on and it can be overwhelming. I love that. How do you maintain or exceed productivity every day? Oh, yes, this is great. We have, Candace near Liverpool, how to be less worried and stressed. JC from Philly. Okay, cool. This is super helpful. So I will scroll back through the comments as we drive our conversation, but let's go ahead and dive in. What I want to do is share this little activity with you, and you can feel free to do it at home with me or wherever you are and get your pen and paper out. And I want to share with you that most of my life, I've had a full plate. Okay. Being a child of an incarcerated parent caused me to grow up quickly. So I've always lived a very full life, and I've always had to manage various things in life, whether I was in the collegiate sphere or in the corporate world. I've always kind of had to wear my community on my back, right? So I was raising my siblings as I was in college, my 4 younger siblings. I was helping my grandparents. I was doing a lot that I never really acknowledged. And so I want to share these key questions that you can ask yourself to get a snapshot of where am I right now, right? And then also get a better understanding of where do I want to go in life, right? So the first question is, what's on your plate? Or ask yourself, right, what's on my plate? So I want you to think about what are the current responsibilities that you're juggling? What are the roles that you feel right now? Chances are your plate is full, right? And I'll give you an example of what this looks like for me in my life. But that's the first question, right? This might be your job that's on your plate. This might be your side hustle. This might be your business. This might be the role of mommy. This might be your role as being a partner, right? What's on your plate? What are those responsibilities that are currently living on your plate? All right. I see the feedback coming in. And the second question is, what do I want for dessert? All right. And let's talk about dessert for a moment. Dessert represents those super sweet elements that you add to your life that are just for you. Some might call it self-care. Julie's like, I want brownies. What do you want for dessert? And brownies can be your actual dessert, right, for this activity. And it can also be things like hiking, knitting, photography, right? Self-care is extremely important to me, and it's something I take very seriously. JC said daily naps. Absolutely. What is that thing that's just for you? Because oftentimes we have all this stuff on our plate and we don't bake in. You get it? You see what I did there? Bake in. You don't bake in those moments of delight, right? Those super sweet moments where you can just be you, right? Mary said, Yes, dessert is my incentive. Exactly. Right. And so self-care is so important. I'm not saying I have it down perfectly, but I am really happy and proud of myself for where self-care fits into my life right now. And to give you an example, I have my calendar up here on the side, and I literally around the first of the month or the last days of the previous month, I map out self-care for the upcoming month. So for me, because we're kind of still in this weird like stay at home sort of mandate, I go to acupuncture currently. I used to do so much more, but right now I'm like, I go to acupuncture. Sometimes I schedule massages. I do a prenatal yoga class. And those are some of the things I do for self-care, right? So that's really important. Now we're going to dive into question number 3. Where can I delegate? I remember that once upon a time, I used to think it was sexy to like do it all on your own. I'm like, yeah, I'm Superwoman. I got this. No, Superwoman is not sexy. We can love Superwoman, right? That's great as a character, right? As a fictitious character. But for us to wear all of that on our own and to do it all on our own, it's tiring, right, Angelica? It's tiring. It's not realistic. And so I'm in a space in life right now where I ask for help anytime I can. All right. I don't want to bring us down too much, but I do want to share because I think this is kind of in line with what we're sharing now. So last year, I've been on this fertility journey, my husband and I, for about 2.5 years. And last year I got pregnant and I had a miscarriage. And it was one of the first moments in life for me where I asked for help unapologetically. So I told my manager about it. I didn't try to hide it like I usually would and keep it to myself and try to just be Miss Strong Superwoman. I told her that I needed help. I needed to take time off. I, set boundaries with family members so that I didn't have to show up and didn't feel obligated to show up in a certain capacity. I gave myself the time that I needed to heal, right? And so when we go back to this question of where can I delegate, we'll talk about that on the next slide too, but where can you delegate? Where can you give someone else? I'm big, again, I use Asana for everything. And so literally in Asana, I currently have a virtual assistant and I map out all of the things that are required to take out certain tasks, right? Or to tackle certain tasks. And I give that to my virtual assistant and I release it, right? Because I don't need to do everything, right? It's not cute to do everything, okay? And the last question here is, what am I optimizing for during this season in my life? Really quick, I want to do a quick check-in. If you are enjoying the content so far and it's resonating with you, feel free to drop a fire emoji in the chat. And to drop a fire emoji in the chat, you can type Command Control space. Yes, Jennifer, there you go. And drop a fire emoji, Command Control space if you're using a Mac. Hey, Valerie. All right, let's go ahead and dive on in. So this question here is so key for me because it was a game changer. Because the thing is, oftentimes we have this idea that we have to do all the things at one time, but it's not true. We don't. So that takes us to our next slide. Let's see what this all looks like in action, okay? So as you can see, I have my plate. These are all the different roles that I'm currently living in, okay? So employee, mom-to-be, sister, friend, daughter, entrepreneur, wife, podcaster, house manager. I'm like the manager of our home, right? I'm like the one that's organizing and buying groceries and all that good stuff. So these are the things on my plate. As you can see, I have my dessert, right? All the things listed for dessert for myself. So for me, setting up the baby's room, that's so exciting. And it's something that brings me joy. So I put it under dessert, right? Self-care, coaching, binge watching shows. I've been binge watching a lot of fun shows, right? And then if you'll notice to the right of the dessert, I have what's on the table. And here's the thing, what's on the table leads us back to question number 4. When you think about what's on the table, what that represents are the things in life that you want to get to, but that may not be a priority right now. I like to look at my life in sprints, and Asana really helps me do that because, we're all in the project management space as far as the company that I work at. And so when I look at my life in sprints, it allows me to think about, okay, for this quarter, what am I optimizing for? What am I focusing on? So for instance, I launched my book earlier this year. And so that was my main focus for the first quarter. It's all about the book launch, right? all about the book launch. So that means my ideas and my thoughts of like creating a documentary, writing a children's book, launching a second podcast. That stuff is great. And it's okay to write it down and do a brain dump of things that you want to do in the future. But I don't have the pressure of feeling like I have to do everything at one time. I've been talking a lot, y'all. I don't have the pressure of feeling like, oh my gosh, I got to do everything right now. No, it's okay, right? So we look at our lives in sprints. We want to jot down and do a brain dump of all the amazing things that we want to do, but know that we don't have to do it all at one time. All right. And you might be wondering, well, how do you do it, Terri? How do you do it? And to be honest, I'm going to be very upfront with you. Although I work at Asana, I'm obsessed with Asana as a product. Like, our company's amazing. I love the people. I love the company. And I am obsessed with our product. And I really use Asana for every aspect of life. So I use Asana for my podcast. I use Asana for my book launch. I use Asana for my weekly grocery list. I use Asana for my fertility treatments, okay? And I literally trained my husband's team. If you use Asana, or if you're familiar with it, type a number 1 in the chat. I just want to get an idea of who's here. And so I actually trained my husband's team. He worked at a university, trained their team, and they use Asana now. Like, my friends use Asana. A lot of people I know use Asana now because I'm like, guys, use Asana. It's amazing. And the great news that I have for you, ooh, JC, you don't know what Asana is? Ooh, okay, well, I have a great slide for you here. So because you're here today, you can get 90 days or 3 months of Asana Premium or Business for free, okay? Using the discount code on screen, all right? And again, if you want the slide deck that we're going over today, you can literally visit iwanttheslidestery.com. I'll send them over to you right away. But look, you can literally test out Asana for free, see if it's, if it's suitable for you. But this is really the project management tool that helps me manage my life, right? So everything from my to-do list, literally right before the session, I was in Asana with my virtual assistant, giving her some to-dos to tackle for the podcast, because I release episodes every Friday with my co-host. I'm going to type this in. So my name is spelled with an I, but you almost got it. So it's iwanttheslidestery.com. There you go. That should work well for you. And so I want to talk a little bit more about Asana here. It's basically a project management tool. It allows you to event plan, literally map your life out in sprints, right? Like I told you earlier, it's easy peasy. So you will get access to that. And also, I do want to encourage you to visit our booth, because when you register, you get a chance to win a $100 gift card to the Citizenry, which is a female-founded and owned home decor shop that powers its business with Asana. And if you didn't know, Ladies Who Launch also used Asana to map out this amazing event, right? So how cool is that? So I really want to just kind of offer that as a tool that you can use. And I want to lean into a quote here that I live by. And the quote is, "Balance is a myth, harmony is a must." I see we have a Lisa Nichols here, and Lisa Nichols, the woman here on the slide deck, or her name, she's one of my favorite motivational speakers. And I think this is so key. I think that we live in this world where folks have always promoted like, oh, you got to have balance, right? But the thing about it is, do we really want life to be balanced? Like, if you think about your role, let's just say for the moms in the room, as a mother and as a career woman, is it always going to be balanced? Probably not. Let's be honest. There are some times, right, depending on what phase of your life you're in and what you're optimizing for, sometimes the career and the raise, it may take precedence over the family, right? Let's be honest, it happens. We don't plan for that, but it happens, right? Because we want to make sure we have a stable career to support our family. So sometimes it's not equal, right? And then there are other times where family is taking the priority, right? So I don't think balance is the goal. I really resonate with this quote by Lisa Nichols. Harmony is a must, right? So working in harmony. And so when we can live our life in sprints, when we can figure out what am I optimizing for in this phase of my life, then we're able to better plan, and we don't feel bad about letting certain things go, right? So I'm just going to be honest with you. When I'm about 5 months pregnant now, when I have my baby next year, that is going to be a sprint for me where I'm all in, like I'm focused on baby and that's it. So my business and things like that are kind of going to be put on the back burner, or they're going to be put on the table, right? And not necessarily on my plate, because I really want to cherish those moments of bonding with my new family, right? And so it's really important to remember that. And I think that when we think about life in this way, it allows us to take the pressure off, right? We realize we don't have to do all the things at one time. So what I want to do now before we dive into Q&A, I want to just scroll up in the chat and see what are some of the things that you want to walk away with, because we have some time here to dive into that. And if you like, still share in the chat and I'll get to any questions that you have. And we can always kick off the Q&A a little early. So let's see. I want to go back to some of your feedback. Julie said, we can do anything. We can't do everything. Yes, I love that. Nita said, just found a VA and I'm trying it out. Truly hope she works. I love it. So far, so good. Let's see. Angelica says, asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. I wish I had learned that sooner. Absolutely, Angelica. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Lisa Nichols says, when we work with a new client and begin structuring their ideal week or month, it's so important to include the dessert items. Yes, absolutely. Let's see, what else do we have here? Just scrolling through the feedback. How to jumpstart and maintain my flow. Ooh, Angela, tell me more about that. What does that mean to you? Because I'd love to speak to that. How to jumpstart and maintain my flow. Ooh, Jennifer says, would love some tips on how to feel okay with saying no. That's a really good question. So Jennifer, you are speaking to, I'm recovering in so many areas, a recovering people person. And so I think this year in particular, I have been really leaning into finding my voice on this for quite some time now. And the way that I look at it is saying no isn't always easy. There's actually this article online where it gives you different ways to say no. And so I think if you are clear on what's on your plate, right, what you're having for dessert and what you're optimizing for in this stage of your life, I think it makes it easier for you to say no, because once you know that you are in alignment with these goals, if something comes up and it conflicts with that, you know, if you're still learning to say no, I'm not an advocate for like providing excuses or like apologizing, for sure, right? Because I think it's important to realize that no is a complete statement. But I think that in my journey in saying no, I've had to like ease my way to the hard no, and that's it, right? And so I think when you, let's say that you're working on, writing a book or something, Jennifer, and someone asks you to help out with something, you might just say, you know what, that sounds really interesting and I would love to help, but I have a full plate right now. And I think for me, setting boundaries has been so key at this stage in life. And the thing about it is I'm learning to set boundaries and also be okay when my friends and people I care about set boundaries with me. I had one of my best friends, I texted her recently, maybe last week or so, and asked her to do something for me. And she's like, you know what? I really don't feel comfortable doing that. And I think there was a time in life, I know there was a time in life where I may have gotten an attitude, or I may have like felt some kind of way that she said no, but she set a boundary. She didn't feel comfortable doing that thing. And so I said, okay, I totally understand. And I think the more that I get comfortable setting boundaries, the more that I'm able to accept that from others. So Jennifer, I hope that helps. I think that when we set boundaries and we say no, and someone responds in a certain way, that can shed a lot of light on that person, right? And their motives. Because if someone is not supportive of your boundaries, then we have another conversation to have, right? Because if someone respects you and values you, when you say no, that's a complete sentence. They should understand. So I think practicing no in small situations could also be great for those times where you have to do it in a big way, I want to say. So I hope that helps, Jennifer. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm going to scroll down to see if we have any new questions. Meditation, yes, so helpful. Okay, great. Thank you for that, Jennifer. As a people pleaser and hotel manager, it's so hard to say no to anyone. I can totally understand. You know what I've realized too, JC? Like I've realized that how you say no, right? Like I find ways to say no gracefully. Like there are times where I want to help, but I actually literally this morning, I had someone in my family ask for money. And usually I would be the person that kind of acts out of obligation. And although I might have it, I don't have it for that, right, at this stage of my life. And so I think for me, having a baby, that has really allowed me to set stronger boundaries. And so I was able to text the person and say, you know what, I really wish I can help. I'm not able to do that right now. And so I really do think that practice makes perfect, and understanding that, don't rob ourselves of an opportunity to do what we feel is right for us, right? Because oftentimes when we acquiesce and we say yes to things that we aren't really thrilled about, yes, we're going to compromise sometimes in life. But when we do that often enough, I think that it can it can diminish the way that we feel about ourselves, and it can build up resentment as well. And so I think that standing firm in who you are and like being your strongest, most secure self is the goal, I would say. And so when you say no and you're able to set those boundaries, I feel like it just gives you a greater sense of strength, if that makes sense. And it allows you to show up better because you're not weighed down by these things that you said yes to that now you're feeling resentful about, right? And now you're like showing up halfway because you're like, I really don't want to do this, but you know? And so let's see. Charlotte says you are working full-time at Asana, running your podcast / consulting business in addition. Is that right? Yes, Charlotte, that is right. That is right. For someone that naturally resists structure and time planning, how can I get over that to use Asana? You know what, Shara? That's a good question. I would say that I'm trying to think, someone that resists structure. So as someone that really loves structure, I'm trying to think of how to best answer that question. I think for me, well, one great thing about Asana is that you have the autonomy to really build out your Asana experience the way that you see fit. So where I might go into Asana this year, and I mean, I planned my sabbatical last year in Asana, and like added my husband, and we had all of our entire trip mapped out in Asana. And so for you, Sherry, you might say, okay, that's too much, Terry. I don't want to do all of that. Instead of having like a big project plan, you can just create your to-do list there. Let me also say I am big on like sticky notes. I love my sticky notes. I love paper, but I lost my planner years ago and it was very stressful. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. So I actually do both. I have tons of notebooks and I love to write things down, but I also sort of reiterate those things into Asana because I love to use the mobile app. So when I'm on the go, I can always scroll down and like see the things that are written on my notepad at home from the app. So I think that might be a good way to share it. It's like creating your to-do list and creating basic things there, and then sort of just testing it out to see what works best for you. All right, I'm just looking through more of the questions. Ooh, Althea, Asana can be used for medical practice. Absolutely. So currently I am Asana's dedicated customer success manager. But before that, I worked with amazing customers around the world that use Asana for everything from, I mean, literally everything from getting clean water to certain villages around countries in the world, to their hiring process, to their roadmap for product launches. I mean, our company Asana, believe it or not, we use Asana for everything. Like, we don't use email internally at our company. And just like any other company, we have any other team that you would have in another company. We have a finance team, right? We have a marketing team. We have a business operations. We have tech. And Asana is really the common thread that ties all of our departments together. So you can absolutely use Asana for medical practice. Absolutely. You know what? Charlotte said, how much do you sleep? I actually feel like I sleep a lot, Charlotte. I think for me, because, you know, I don't do all the things at one time. Like right now, the biggest things on my to-do list or on my plate, I would say, are my full-time job, my podcast, and let's see, what else? Full-time job, podcast, and then my side business. So because my full-time job is the main priority right now, my business is not getting all of my time, right? Because I work full time. The podcast, I have a set of to-dos that I need to do every week so that we can publish episodes. We're actually going to release an episode tonight, so that we can release episodes every week. And so I have a virtual assistant. I saw someone say, what can you delegate to a virtual assistant? Oh my gosh, Mary, you can delegate a lot. So for me, one of the things that I delegate to my assistant is listening to the podcast each week. So we finally, after about a year or so of me editing the podcast, which was a lot of work, my co-host and I, we now outsource that to an engineer who lives in Boston, and he edits our podcast. And we want to listen to the podcast again after he edits to make sure that everything's good. So instead of me spending about 30 minutes to an hour to listen to the podcast each week, I assign that to my virtual assistant so that can free me up. She's very detail oriented. She'll then let me know what she hears from the episode, and then I can go in and, you know, share any feedback. I'm also looking for a new virtual assistant because my VA, she is restructuring her business and will only be serving people in a different capacity. And so she's helping me with the hiring process. So Mary, I think what I find when it comes to virtual assistants is if you get super clear on what are all the steps that you take to complete a certain task well, if you can write that down and structure that, you can literally pass it on to someone else. And so that's what I've been doing big time. And I'm really leaning into delegation even more, considering that I plan to take maternity leave. I see we're at time, so I'm going to finish this up and then we'll dive into, I guess, the next phase here. I'm really leaning into delegation as I plan to leave for maternity leave next year after the baby. So delegation is super important. Okay, so I see that we are at time, but I know that we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So feel free to continue to ask questions. I think we have about 10 more minutes here. I'm just going to take a look at the feedback. Tulani says Asana has a beautiful interface. Yes, Asana has a beautiful interface. Asana has a beautiful interface. We also have fun characters. If you're into unicorns and like making work fun, Asana's the tool for you. Shira, okay. So you asked about how Asana compares to another tool like Monday. So we have other competitors in the field. Shira, I've never used those other tools, and so I'm definitely biased. I would say definitely take a look at the discount code that we provide. You can go to iwanttheslidestery.com to get access to the slides, and the discount code will be there. And you can definitely try them out for yourself. But I'm a huge fan of Asana. It's really all I actually used another tool back in the day, but it's what I've been using for the past few years. And so that's my favorite. But we have tons of resources online on YouTube and on our website where you can learn a bit more about how to use the tool and get the most out of it. This went by so fast. What do you recommend for someone in a job transition, AKA me, to stay in harmony, but also productive? You know, Angelica, I think finding some type of schedule works for me. So I know when I was job searching, it was such a discouraging journey because I was in this phase of believing that I was defined by where I was and I was getting a lot of rejection. But I believe that social media is such a great platform for us to leverage our talents and skills in the midst of the job search. So even though people are, may not hire you, they may not see your greatness, they may not see your potential. What I find when it comes to branding, I'll be hosting some branding workshops soon too. And so please connect with me if you want to hear more about that. But basically, when it comes to branding and especially social media, I like to first think about, okay, what are the 3 words that I want people to use to describe me and my brand, right? What are the words that I want to exude on social media or with my brand? And what I do is I then create content that evokes those words, right? So for me, it's typically things like inspirational, transformational, value packed, right? I don't want to be that person that's just like talking and posting content just to talk. I want to provide value. And so if those are the things that I know that I want to add to the world, right, and that I want to represent my brand, then how can I post content that's aligned with that? So Angelica, whether it's using storytelling about your experiences, whether it's highlighting some of the amazing things that you've done at previous jobs, start sharing that stuff on LinkedIn, right? Use some great photos that are in alignment with the message that you're sharing, and people are watching. I remember when I first started working at Asana, I was in an entry-level role, and I had a master's degree, right? And I was in this entry-level role because in my mind, I knew that a foot in the door was better than being outside the door. So I had to put my ego aside, and I was like, well, I want to be at this company. I want to see how things are going to go. So I took this role, and my plan was to work my way up in the company, which I did. Now, the thing about it is social media was so important for me. I remember posting things about branding because that's what I do in my side hustle, right? Teach people how to build brands, how to build podcasts. And so I remember posting content about my brand after hours on LinkedIn and social media. And some of the leadership folks came to me and they're like, hey, we see what you're doing on LinkedIn. We'd love for you to do that here. So it's like, use social media, especially in this virtual world that we're in currently. Like, branding is so key. Oh, let's see what else. How do you decide what to focus on for the season when you have so many things on your plate? Yeah, Lauren, I mean, I think that's a really good question. I think it really boils down. Let's see, I'm going to go back to that slide with the plate there. I think it really boils down to you just getting super clear on, what can I optimize for based on what I'm doing right now, right? There were certain periods in my life where I kind of had to take a pause. And I'm not saying that's you, Lauren, but I had to take a pause based on what was happening. And to me, it brings me back to when I had the miscarriage. Last year, I wanted to launch my book last year. Like I planned to launch my book. And that was something that had to just go to the side because I really needed to heal. And so I think that if you have so many things to focus on, getting clear on, can you delegate anything? If you can't delegate anything, how can you just add some dessert into your life to kind of keep you motivated, to keep you fueled while you wait to get to those other things that are on the table? Like I cannot wait to create documentaries one day, but I'm just not in a space to do that at this time in life. But I know that it's on the table and it'll come down the line. I can't wait to write children's books one day. Right now that I'm having a child, I can't wait to write children's books. But I know that right now, I won't be able to do all the things well. So it's really about prioritizing. So I hope that answers the question there, Lauren. And then let's see, we have, Maria made a really good point. Some employers aren't ecstatic that some employees have side businesses. How did your current employer react to your side business? And how did you navigate telling them? So Maria, let me just say, my current employer has been, it's been absolutely amazing. If you go to Asana's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, you'll probably see me plastered, me and along with some of my other colleagues, plastered around. They really support us and celebrate us. And this is probably the first time that a company has ever supported me in that way. And this isn't like a new thing. Literally on day one, I remember when I started at Asana 4 years ago, I remember my manager or my manager's manager introduced me to the team and he posted my blog like in the welcome post. And I was so shocked. I was just like, oh my gosh, isn't this weird? Like I've always felt very insecure about having a side hustle because I didn't want my employer to feel threatened, right? Or like it was some type of competition. So what I would say is I think it's important to, when it comes to that, because I've had jobs before that weren't very thrilled. They're like, okay, great. That's what you do on the side. Keep it on the side. And so I think that when you have a side hustle, I would say still go hard on social media, but I want to say be mindful of when you do that, right? Like if you're working solo, don't do it during business hours. Like you really want to have a great separation on when you're posting, when you're doing work and when you're posting about your side hustle on social media. Now I have had a VA for some time. So sometimes midday, there will be posts about my brand or videos of me posted because my virtual assistant is doing that for me. But my team is so supportive. And so if you are in a situation where they are not supportive, I would say try to figure out where does your job and your interest or side hustle, where do they intersect and how can you bring them together? Because my thing is, if your business has a certain end goal and you can speak to that end goal through the lens of your passion, you have a win-win situation. I'll give you a few examples. So years ago, I worked in higher education. I worked at St. John's University in Queens. Hey, Queens. I know we got some Queens people in the house. I worked at St. John's University in Queens, and I've always been into motivational speaking for as long as I can remember. And being a resident director and managing a residence hall of about 400 or so university, I wanted to figure out, how do I bring my love and passion for motivational speaking and encouraging folks? How do I bring that to my job? Well, part of a residence director's job is to program for your students. So I created programs and partnered with other people around campus and created programs they had an organization called Rise. I think it was like Rise Up for minority students. So guess who was the speaker after hours, late nights after hours? Guess who was their key speaker at one of their Rise Up events? Me. So I had a chance to bring the job or bridge the job with the passion. So I think that sometimes you can definitely do that if you can try to be creative and get clear on what does my employer value? Because if I can present my side hustle or like bring aspects of that into the job and help them meet that bottom line, boom, right? All right, let's see. What else do we have here? New York, holla. Yes, Shira. Yes, Tulani, that speaks to Asana's culture and also to the honor system of the employee entrepreneur. Absolutely. Absolutely. Team, I think we're at time here. Julie, feel free to let me know. Thank you so much, Rowan. Feel free to let me know. I feel like I can just talk all day, but I know that everyone has places to go and things to do. So what I do want to say is, please be sure to check out the Asana booth. I mean, Asana really is an amazing company. I know a lot of people talk about their companies, but if you go to their social media, you can see that like Asana is really about the work. Asana is about that work. Okay, they support their employees. They're really awesome. And you can get a chance to win this $100 gift card if you do register in our booth here. Also, don't forget that you can get access to Asana for 90 days or 3 months, okay? So please be sure. Oh, great. Julie says I can stay until 9:45. Yay. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and chat more. So share more questions in chat. As you can see, I'm having a great time with you. You can also use the discount code Ladies Who Launch, and that'll give you access to Asana for 3 months. You get premium or business. If I were you, I would go with business. We have amazing features like forms where you can I use forms for my podcast. So when our listeners want to share questions, we have I guess a forum. They can share questions, and that'll filter those questions into an Asana project. So my co-host and I can answer those questions. So that's great. And then last but not least, please do keep in touch. I'm at Terri Lomax on social media. You can also visit iwanttheSlidesTerri.com, and I'll send you this slide deck and more information about an upcoming branding workshop that I'm going to do online. So I want to go back into the questions here. Charlotte says, which year of your life was the biggest turning point? That's Kadia. Which year of my life was the biggest turning point? Charlotte, there have been so many. I just released a self-help book. I don't know if you can see it back here, but it's available on Amazon called How to Glow Up as You Grow Up. And I talk a bit about my journey from homeless shelter to Silicon Valley. And so there were so many pivotal moments, Charlotte. I think for me, just really understanding, there were just so many. I can think of a lot right now, but I think if I had to name one, it was probably moving from the Eastern Shore of Maryland to Silicon Valley. I mean, moving out here in the past 5 years, my career has skyrocketed like crazy. And I think a lot of it has to do with personal branding. A lot of it had to do with me, believing in myself. I think sometimes when we struggle with imposter syndrome and we don't feel very good about ourselves based on where we come from. Like again, public school girl here. So I was wearing my insecurities on me and kind of projecting that onto other people. So when people didn't see me for who I am or for the value that I brought, I was like, oh, okay, that's why. It's because I went to this school and I did that. So I think for me, it really had to do with just understanding that we are valuable. No matter what our experience is, no matter what happened to us, no matter where we come from, like we are valuable. We have something to bring to the table. And I believe that moving here and being able to work my way up in Silicon Valley with a non-traditional background, that was a big factor for me. It really showed me, you know what? You can really do this and you don't have to do it the way other people do it. When you joined Asana, did you find Asana and apply to them, or did they find you? Yeah, so 4 years ago, I actually, I found Asana. It was during a phase where I was unemployed and I was just applying to all jobs. I mean, I was on Indeed and I was getting rejections left and right. And I was applying. And finally, Asana got back to me. I forgot that I had applied and I didn't really know what this company was. But I was like, okay, they called me and I was like, okay, let me go check this out. So I went for my interview day and literally, I lied to you not, it was love at first sight. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And what really sold me was like the culture, the people, the office, but also the product. The fact that there was a product that was so keen on helping people become more efficient and that aligns so well with who I am as a person and what I want to do, that really connected with me. And to be able to work at a company, again, that aligned with who I am outside of work, that was very, very exciting for me. And so, yes, that is the Asana story there. That resonates. How did you work through that feeling of not being enough? You know what, Angelica, a lot of this work was personal work that I had to do, like one-on-one, like looking myself in the mirror and like really understanding my value. And so I think for me, affirmations, I'm big on affirmations. I'm big on manifestation, mindset work. I'm big on understanding, okay, what are the stories that you're telling yourself right now? Terri or Angelica or whoever, right? JC, what are the stories that I'm telling myself right now? And understanding that some of those stories, they no longer serve me, right? I often used to say this and kind of believe it like, oh, I'm just a little Black girl from Philly. Well, if that's what you think you are, then that's how you're going to show up. So when I'm sitting in these conference rooms and these meetings and I'm with people who went to Ivy League school and I keep saying to myself, I don't belong here. I'm just a little Black girl from Philly. Well, if that's what I keep saying, that's how I'm going to show up, right? And so for me, it had to be, that's who I was. And that served me at one point. But who do I want to be today, right? And so understanding and realizing it's okay to be confident. It's okay to be secure. It's okay to realize, you know what, I'm talented. I'm smart. it's okay to do that. It's okay to brag on yourself and understand that. So I think writing down a list of things you've accomplished is always helpful. Oh my gosh, we're almost wrapping up. Let's see. Also, I just want to say, follow me on Instagram at Terri Lomax. I'm going to be going live a lot next week, and I'll be having more of these authentic conversations. I feel like like we have unfinished business. This is still such a juicy conversation. And Charlotte, I will close out in saying, I am confident overall, but I definitely have my moments. I definitely have days and times where I'm not confident and I'm not at 100%. And I give myself grace to feel those things and remind myself of who I am and what I'm here for. I just want to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for your energy in the chat. I think we're getting kicked out soon. I appreciate you. I hope we can stay connected and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday break. And I hope to see you soon.